Hey guys, there's been a ruling by the Supreme Court concerning the federal election conspiracy trial that was on hold pending the Supreme Court decision concerning Donald Trump, that he conspired to overthrow the election. Remember back in 2020, because he disputed that it was a fair election. Donald Trump, if you remember, he thought, and you could, I'm not going to debate if it's right or wrong, but he thought that there was fraud in the election. And he did a couple things. He went to the state legislatures, which is legal, but he said, hey, I want you to decertify the results and look at this to see if there's fraud involved. And the states didn't do that, but he went to some states like Georgia. In fact, he has a case in Georgia coming up for doing that. And he talked to Mike Pence and said, hey, Mike, don't do the count on January 6th where you count the electoral votes. Don't do that because I think there's fraud. Mike Pence did that anyway. But it's important to understand nothing was stopped. The vote still happened. And on January 20th, even though Trump believed that there was fraud in the election, he abided by the process and he stepped down. There wasn't any fight or resistance or anything like that. He didn't try to be a dictator. He objected to the election, said it was fraudulent, and he took measures to dispute it, which you may not like it. You may say, oh, but there was no fraud. Well, that's your opinion, but he should have a right to object. That shouldn't have been the issue. It'd be one thing if he refused to leave office, then yeah, you have an issue there. But that wasn't the case at all. He just objected, went to some states and complained about it, said, hey, you need to relook at this. Don't certify your electors. And he went to Mike Pence and said, hey, don't count these votes yet because I think there's fraud. But it didn't happen, right? So he left office. But the government decided to go after him, or the Democrats, and Jack Smith, they put this federal election conspiracy charge against him. Like he was conspiring to overthrow the election, which is just crazy, but that's what they're charging him with. Mostly they're charging him because they don't want Donald Trump to win. And the Democrats, what they are doing now, like a banana republic, is trying to throw their political opposition in jail. But the federal election conspiracy trial, and this kind of relates to the trial in Georgia, this was really the big one. And the Supreme Court ruled that no, the executive, meaning the president, has partial immunity or 100% immunity concerning his official acts. And Donald Trump was really happy about the decision. Was his comment. The Supreme Court decision is much more powerful one than some had expected it to be. It is brilliantly written and wise and clears the stench from the Biden trials and hoaxes, all of them that have been used as an unfair attack on crooked Joe Biden's political opponent. Many of these fake cases will now disappear or wither into obscurity. God bless America. Yeah, this has got the left all freaked out. They're having a meltdown like AOC, and commentators are melting down. Oh, this means the president has immunity. He can do whatever. The president is not under law. It's like a dictator. It's a king. A president can go out to the local liquor store and just murder someone. And it's just crazy. And it's a bunch of stupid people that are actually too stupid to read the case, or they're too senile in the case of Joe Biden. And Joe Biden prattled on. He had a quick little speech, no questions, because Joe, he can't answer questions anymore, where he read the teleprompter and said, no one should be above the law. Well, I know Joe didn't read the decision. He doesn't have the ability to do that anymore because of his Alzheimer's right now. I mean, it's obvious. And people like AOC, they're just genetically based on who they are. They don't have the intelligence to understand this, so they just go off hysterically. But does this really grant unlimited immunity to a president, or put the president above the law? And the answer is clearly no. And the Supreme Court, actually, if they read the case, they would see that the answer is no. They're not above the law. However, there is a separation of powers, and what the president does as the president within his official functions, you can't just the Department of Justice can't challenge him because that's the separation of powers. We have the executive branch, we have the legislation, and then we have the judiciary, and they're separate for a reason, so we don't have a dictatorship. And if you don't like what the president does, there's already a remedy. It's called impeachment. So if you are upset about the president and his official policies, and you just think this is horrible, it's beyond the pale, well, there's what happens is Congress, they can impeach the president, and then you have a trial in the Senate. That's the remedy. So there's already a constitutional method to deal with it. And let's take a look at this from what was written. And again, this is from the case and some of the footnotes here. This case poses a question of lasting significance. When may a former president be prosecuted for official acts taken during his presidency? In answering that question, unlike the political branches and the public at large, the court cannot afford to fixate exclusively or even primarily on present exigencies. And if you guys don't know what that means, you went to a public school, that means urgencies, that means political urgencies. So what they're saying here is this is a bigger principle. It's more than just Donald Trump facing the trial. It's a bigger question they're having to discuss here. And then they would go on, enduring separation of powers principles guide our decision in this case. And this means the Constitution has separated the powers between the executive branch and the congressional branch. The president enjoys no immunity for his unofficial acts, and not everything the president does is official. So this is like, oh, so now the president can just do whatever he wants. He can go rob a liquor store and kill people. No, because that's not an official act. He's acting as a private person at that point, and he definitely can be prosecuted. So the court has already talked about that. The president is not above the law, but under our system of separated powers, the president may not be prosecuted for exercising his core constitutional powers, and he is entitled at least to the presumptive immunity from prosecution for his official acts. That immunity applies equally to all occupants of the Oval Office. So it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're Biden, Trump, or Obama. If you have your official acts as president, you're immune from prosecution. Otherwise, the system will start to break apart. For example, Obama could be on trial for murder because he used drones to kill some civilians. You could throw him into court now, say, no, you don't have presidential immunity, Obama. We're going to put you on trial for murder. The Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that because he was doing this as his official capacity as commander-in-chief. Now, you may think what he did was horrible, and at the time, if Congress really objected to it, they had a remedy. They could have impeached him and removed him from office via the Senate. They chose not to do that, but we couldn't go back now and charge Obama for murder. In a similar way now, Joe Biden, you can make the case that girl in Texas that was murdered by the illegals from Venezuela. The Biden administration, they facilitated bringing in illegals, breaking our law, which led to the death of this girl. He could be, under a theory, he could be an accomplice to the murder. Texas could put out an arrest warrant for him if he didn't have immunity and try Biden for murder, accomplice a murder. But under this really, no, they can't do that. So even after Biden leaves office, Texas can't bring a charge against Biden. And this is the same with Trump. So you may not like what Trump did, but the presumption is that what Trump does in office or any president is part of their executive authority. You have to prove that it isn't. So Trump talking to the Vice President Mike Pence about not certifying the votes, that is definitely covered under presidential immunity because that's part of the executive branch, private conversations. It's not illegal. Now, you could say, well, Trump asking the states not to certify ballots, or Trump encouraging some other electors to be ready in case the election was overthrown in a certain state because there was fraud. You could say that constitutes an action outside his official authority. But you'd have to argue it based on that. But the presumption, the Supreme Court said, the presumption, I mean, you have to go in presuming that Trump has the authority to do these type of things, or any president. That as a president, you are charged with enforcing the law, right? You're an executive. So the Congress theoretically makes a law, the courts interpret it, make sure it's constitutional, and the executive branch, meaning the president, is responsible for fulfilling the law, executing the law, to make sure the law is followed properly. And you could disagree with it, but Trump, I think, has a good argument. Well, hey, as the president, I saw something that I believed was against the law, meaning there was election fraud, and I requested that the states look into the matter and hold on certifying the results until they determine if there was fraud or not. And I asked the vice president to hold off certifying the election until we determine if there's fraud or not. You'd have to prove that is outside the realm of the presidency, that Trump was just acting as a private citizen. Like Trump going down the liquor store, robbing it and murdering the people is obviously not part of being president, so that would be outside of it. But this, I think it falls within the presidential immunity. And so there's really no case here then. There really is no case. Now, what I just explained, Biden can't understand anymore because he's senile. AOC's too stupid and others are too stupid. And now the Supreme Court says the president can do whatever he wants. He can kill anyone he wants. Now, that's not what they say. In fact, they actually spelled it out. But again, these people can't understand that. So what does this mean in practical terms? In practical terms, this means the federal case isn't, I don't think, going to go anywhere. And the whole purpose of this case, you remember, wasn't that they felt that Trump actually did anything wrong. It was to try to prevent him from being president. So they're trying to throw their political opposition in jail. And so I think the federal election conspiracy trial is probably dead now. If they try to do it, they're going to have to prove that his actions were outside of the official presidential authority. And again, the presumption is he had the authority. The Supreme Court has ruled. So it's going to be tough. I think they probably will just cancel the case. But no matter. There's no way this case comes before a judge and a jury until after the election. And then if Trump wins, it doesn't really matter. He can just pardon himself. If he loses, I don't think they really care, because the whole purpose of this case is just to prevent him from being president again. That's the real thing. And then you have the state of Georgia case, and that's very similar. That's racketeering by a criminal organization that tried to overturn the election results. That's what that corrupt black woman, Fannie Willis, and her lover, Nathan Wade, that all that corruption down there in Georgia, Atlanta. That case has been kind of put on hold anyway because of Fannie Willis's corruption. But this could really kill the case now because the Supreme Court has ruled that the president has authority. He has presidential immunity for his official actions. So that case is going to have a lot of problem. So we're pretty much done with the cases. The only other cases pending they could try to get Trump on is the classified documents case. Remember that? He had those documents that were supposedly classified in his home, like Hillary did, like Mike Pence did, like Biden, like Biden did in his garage. They didn't charge Biden because they said he was too senile. Remember that case? That case has been delayed because it looks like the FBI tampered with the evidence. So that may never go. That's mishandling of classified documents. So we'll get the sentencing on July 11th. So Trump still may go to jail because of the business records case, but the other cases they're just falling apart. So if Trump can get past July 11th without actually going to jail, let's say just getting a suspended sentence or out on appeal or something like that, I think it's pretty good news for Trump. although I'm not optimistic. So the Democrats are doubling down. I think they're going to do everything by any means necessary. They don't care about the law. They're going to try to throw Trump into prison. It could be really rough. But good news on the Supreme Court ruling here. And I just wanted to clarify it a little bit because you're going to hear a lot of fake news and stupid people say, oh, the president can do whatever he wants. No, he can't. And the Supreme Court addressed that concern. Thanks, guys, and talk to you guys later.